North Carolina looks for a measure of revenge against Alabama in the Sweet 16 tomorrow night. And the single biggest factor? Alabama's defense, or lack thereof.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Wednesday, March 27th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, and you've joined us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. Thank you for making us your first listen or watch, and a big shout out to all you everydayers out there. A couple quick random updates for you. Came out on Tuesday that RJ Davis has been named one of the 4 finalists for the Naismith Award, the nation's best college basketball player. Go vote for that. You can do it. It's out on Twitter. Make sure you get him. Also, some sad news on the women's college basketball front. Paulina Paris is entering the transfer portal, and so she will not be a Tar Heel next season. Bummer there. All right, coming up on the show today, we're going to have the Four Corners preview ahead of the Alabama game tomorrow night. We're going to talk about Armando Bacot, turnovers and rebounds, a couple other stuff. And then, little transfer portal conversation. Maybe a Cormac Ryan replacement in the works. We'll get to that. But the first thing I want to talk about is the single biggest outlier in this game on Thursday night in the Sweet 16 as Carolina's trying to advance to the Elite 8. North Carolina's offense, elite, top 16 or number 16 at KenPom right now. North Carolina's defense, elite, number 6 at KenPom right now. Alabama's offense, the highest, most elite of those 3 things, 4th at KenPom in the nation. But the outlier is the Alabama Crimson Tide defense. Right now, they are 102 in the nation. That's out of 362 teams nationally. They are the worst Power 6 defense in the entire NCAA tournament. Not the 16 teams remaining. I mean, all 68 of all the Power 6 schools, they're the worst. In fact, all 68 teams, not even like high major, mid-major, low major, all 68 of them, there were only 11 teams that had a worse rated defense at KenPom than Alabama, and they were all 12 seed or worse. That's how bad this defense is. And so you look at it and it's like, okay, that's just efficiency. What are they actually giving up? Okay, well, how about this? In terms of average points per game given up to opponents, Alabama is surrendering 80.9 points per game. There are only 7 teams in all of Division I that have allowed more points per game than the Alabama Crimson Tide. And again, I'll remind you, there are 362 teams in Division I, and only 7 of them allow more points per game than Alabama. Of those 7, all but 1 have a losing record. Of those 7, only 1 was another Power 6 school. And what school was that? DePaul. DePaul's in the Big East. They won 3 games this year and went 0 of 20 in conference play. All this to say, this is not a winning formula for Alabama. It's sustained them as they've just been able to outscore most opponents. But when you get down to the nitty-gritty like this, no, not even a chance. In their 34 games that they've played, Alabama has given up 80 or more points 19 times. Just north of half of their games, they've given up 80 or more points. And what's weird about the NCAA tournament version of Alabama is this. They've been on both ends of the defensive spectrum. Game 1 against Charleston. Alabama scored 109 points. That's very Alabama of them. But they also gave up 96 points. That's also very Alabama of them this year. But then in Game 2 against Grand Canyon, the score here was 72-61. Alabama won. That is their second lowest point total offensively all season. Their lowest was 71 that they scored against Tennessee. That's it, 72. And Grand Canyon just 61 points. So you hear me throwing all these numbers at you, and you're like, okay, fine. But here's what I've been hearing people say on TV. Like, I respect the heck out of Jay Wright, the former Villanova coach. But I heard him say this at halftime of one of the games this weekend. Something to the effect of, yeah, I don't care what they've done all season. They're doing it now against Grand Canyon. They can do this. I've heard people say things like, sure, I know what they've been all season, but they can turn it on now. They just got to decide that they want to defend. All due respect to anyone and everyone who is saying that, but you are dead wrong. No, they cannot turn their defense on all of a sudden. You can't just suddenly you're going to decide that you're going to start defending after a season's worth of not defending, and suddenly you're able to do it. No. If you can't decide you want to guard against Tennessee or Auburn or whoever it is, or Kentucky, you're not going to do it here. Yeah, I mean, you're just not. You might be slightly better because you realize it's win or go home and I got to be more dialed in. Okay, great. So maybe you give up 85 points instead of 90. That's all that difference is. It's not like suddenly you're connected defensively as a team, because it's not just about want to. It's about understanding scheme and trusting each other and knowing what you need to do. You've heard the Tar Heels talk about it all season long. That's why they're so good on defense. I know where Armando's going to be. I know where Cormac's going to be. I know, and I can trust that he's doing what he needs to do. I can provide help, all these things. That's not Alabama. That's not what they've been all season long, and they can't just suddenly fix that. And oh, by the way, it's not like it's just some random team. North Carolina is the 16th most efficient team in the entire nation offensively. It's not like Alabama's deciding to do this and it's like Scrubsville, USA. This is the Tar Heels, the ACC's player of the year. What are we doing? No, Alabama cannot suddenly start defending. Oh, Isaac, but look what they did to Grand Canyon the other night. They held Grand Canyon to just 61 points. Did you watch that basketball game? It was a sloppy street fight. Grand Canyon had decided the only way we can win this game is to muck it up, be as physical as we possibly can. And sure, we might, because their offense is terribly inefficient. I mean, you saw it if you watched that game. Grand Canyon's offense, not good at all. But they mucked it up enough with Alabama to hold them to 72 points. And their defense held Grand Canyon to 61. Okay. Grand Canyon's one guy. And that's it. No, I'm not buying that either. So North Carolina needs to exploit the heck out of this thing. That's it. This is the worst defense by far that is left in the tournament. It's just should be a moment where Carolina absolutely dominates whatever it is they need to do. So, like, looking at it, the next worst remaining defense, you got Illinois at 92, who's also been very bad all season long. NC State at 75. But outside of that, Gonzaga 41, Clemson 37, and everyone else is top 23. Alabama is the far and away outlier here, and they're not going to be able to get it done against North Carolina. Now, again, if they buckle down, maybe they can hold Carolina to 5 fewer points than they otherwise would have. But no, they don't have anything for the Tar Heels defensively. So let's go do it. Let's take care of business, put up 85, 90 points, and that'll take care of it. Now, a big part of doing that is a young man, or an old man in basketball, college basketball terms, named Armando Bacot. Carolina needs to play through him just like they did against Wagner. We're going to discuss that and the rest of the Four Corners preview coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you that this episode is brought to you by Better Together. Are you tired of the same old daily fantasy grind? You make a roster, you cross your fingers, you hope for the best, or maybe losing on the last leg of your pick'em entry? Well, I'd like to introduce you to Better Together, the first cooperative daily fantasy platform where teamwork triumphs over talent and you can play with your friends, not against them. You pick more or less on real-time player stats, strategize with your partner to boost your odds and climb that leaderboard together. So grab a friend and come get on in to this social DFS experiment. Better Together also gives inexperienced players an immersive way to learn about DFS. You team up and you follow the lead of the experienced friend or teammate in a team contest, and that can take away the fear of diving in for the first time. So Tar Heel fans, you need to show that you're the best players by participating in the Fan Challenge series for a chance to win real money prizes. See the app for contest details. Download Better Together now from the App Store and sign up using promo code Locked On for a chance to win your share of over $1,000 in cash prizes. Remember that code Locked On, because winning alone is fun, but it's better together. This episode is also brought to you by our good friends at Amazon Fire TV, which is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can just plug right on into your existing TV to provide you access to millions of TVs and TV episodes and movies, as well as free and live TV. So whether it's March Madness or the opening weekend of the MLB season, you're going to want to have Fire TV. I have Amazon Fire TV sticks on literally every TV in my house. I love the layout. I love the user experience. I love how easy it is to navigate. I also love the remote, this handy dandy little guy I've got here. It's got a button for Netflix and Prime Video, Peacock, Hulu, whatever. It'll take you straight there. I love it. Also, Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at the Locked On Network, not to mention they've got great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos as well. So check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't done so, you should. Trust me on that. To learn more, visit amazon.com/lockedonfiretv. Four Corners preview, North Carolina versus Alabama. Let's get ready for this with four things that I am watching for on Thursday evening. Going to be a little bit of a late one. By the way, make sure, though, that you get a nap in so you can stay up and tune in with us for our live postcast right on YouTube. If you're a usual listener, man, you want to make sure to hop on YouTube and be part of that with us. Although, as always, I'll pipe it out to the audio channel as well. All right, number one in the Four Corners preview. We just talked about how North Carolina needs to just exploit the porous Alabama defense. And I think the key way they can do that is through Armando Bacot. It's very similar to the Wagner game. Yes, Alabama has more size than Wagner, obviously. But when I look up and down this roster, they got nothing for Armando Bacot, anything that he hasn't seen before. Their starting five is typically Grant Nelson, who had transferred in this year from North Dakota State. He's a fine player. But Mondo will absolutely eat him for lunch or I guess dinner or maybe fourth meal because it's so late. So Taco Bell is what he's eating him for. It's like Grant Nelson to me is like a less talented. He's talented, but less talented, shorter, skinnier Kyle Filipowski. So kind of imagine that, but not quite as good, big, or thick. Like it's just what it is. So you imagine that. You already know how Armando's treated Flip this year. Imagine doing that to somebody not quite Flip. Come on, what are we talking about? So just like Carolina did with Wagner, you got to go straight in. And this builds on what we talked about on yesterday's show, where I said Carolina's got to get off to a faster start, especially against Alabama, whose offense is elite, and they could be off and running, and it's 13-2 before you know what hits you. So go into Armando right out of the gate. Find out what kind of defense they're playing against him. If single coverage, game over. If they're going to double him, let's see Armando be a facilitator, kind of similar to what he did against Michigan State on Saturday. Just let him kick out. And then you got to rely on Harrison and Cormac and RJ to be knocking them down. That's what you expect. So I want to see that, pound it over and over and over again. Now, there are other guys they might try, but Nick Pringle, nope. I don't see him. Jaron Stevenson, who we thought might come to North Carolina next year, he's been the starter at the five sometimes. No. Not only does he not have the size for Armando, he's a freshman. Armando would just take him to the woodshed. So, moreover with this, but I kind of need to say that I think the Tar Heels are going to want to pick and choose a little bit of when they run in this game. Because North Carolina wants to get up and down some, Alabama wants to get up and down the entire game. They're like the third, they're top five in adjusted tempo, third in like shortest length of possession time. I mean, they're just going and hoisting threes. So playing through the post could be a way to slow it down just slightly enough beyond warp speed, like 2 notches below that, where Carolina wants to play. They want to play fast. They don't want to play at warp speed. And so playing through Armando could aid that as well. Number 2 in our Four Corners preview, while Alabama's defense is terrible, their offense is the exact opposite of that. Basically, Alabama tries every game to just outscore everyone they play. So that means let's talk about North Carolina's defense, which you know is quite elite itself. Thank you very much. Number 6 in the nation at KenPom. And particularly this postseason, Carolina has played 5 games. Here are the point totals they've allowed: 67, 65, 84. That's the outlier, NC State, 62, and 69. That's a 69.4 points per game average for the opposition, even with that NC State number factored in. Carolina has held 4 of their 5 postseason opponents to 70 or fewer points. In fact, they did that 22 times out of their 36 games this season. That's phenomenal for North Carolina. But hold the phone, because Alabama is a different beast. It's a horse of a different color, whatever you want to say with that. They are 4th in the nation at KenPom in offensive efficiency. But I already told you that the Tar Heels are just right there too, 6th in defensive efficiency. So when you think about this offense and how Carolina can and should attack it, the head of the snake is Mark Sears. He was in the game last year against Carolina. He's doing very similar stuff to RJ, 21.5 points per game. Great shooting averages. I'm not going to go all the way through them, but just know, man, it's elite. He's up there, y'all. And also, it's not just the points. He's their second leading assist man, 4.2 assists per game. Does have 2.5 turnovers a game, so there is that with it. And Mark Sears is a little bit smaller, like RJ is. So there's some world in which you say, do you have RJ and Mark Sears guard each other? Or will we see Alabama, similar to what other schools have done to try to slow down RJ, put some more size on him? Will North Carolina try to do the same thing? Maybe Cormac or Seth Trimble when he's in. I would imagine there will be different Tar Heels taking their turns on Mark Sears because he's the guy you got to slow down. So watch for that. How does North Carolina choose to guard Mark Sears? That'll be the first thing I see after the tip ball once Alabama has a possession, what Tar Heel winds up on him. And of course, as always happens in modern college basketball, everyone's going to get switched onto him at some point. And so we'll see if Carolina switches 1 through 5. Armando's been doing a pretty good job staying in front of people. So we'll see what happens there. But again, just keep watching it. So with Alabama's offense, they're going to get their points. So here's my goal. Hold them to 80 or fewer. And that's tough to do. Alabama has played 34 games this year, and 26 of those, they've had 80 or more. They've been held under 80 just 8 times. They've been held under 75 just 5 times. But listen to the types of schools that held them under 75. Arizona, South Carolina, Tennessee twice, and then Grand Canyon on Sunday. That's the type of defense Carolina has. So there is a world in which Carolina holds Alabama to 75 or fewer. That is not what the percentages say will happen based on what Alabama's done this year, but based on what North Carolina's done this year, there's an average somewhere in there, and I think 80 is a good goal. And I know that seems high, but it's because I truly believe the Tar Heels can get the 85 or higher offensively. So my goal for Carolina offense, 85 or more. Holding Alabama's offense, 80 or below. So watch for that. We'll see what happens. And again, it doesn't have to be pretty or beautiful. At this point in the season, you're just trying to get 4 more wins, but you're doing it 1 win at a time. That's all that matters. You win, you win, you win. Just got to do whatever that takes. Number 3 in the Four Corners preview, rebounding is going to be a critical factor in this game. You know that the Tar Heels, that's a big emphasis for them, particularly on the defensive side. This year, Carolina is 8th in the nation in total rebounds per game. I don't know if you realize they were that high or not, but they grabbed 40.9 rebounds per game. They're more elite at defensive rebounding than they are at offense. The Tar Heels are 9th nationally in defensive rebounds per game at 29, but they're just 55th in offensive rebounds per game, 11.9. But Alabama's just right there. They're slightly behind the Tar Heels, but I mean, it's very close. Alabama is 21st nationally in rebounding at 39.7 per game, but that's only 1.2 rebounds behind Carolina. So while there's a distance between them in terms of where they rank, the distance between how many rebounds they're getting is not much at all. Similar to defense, Carolina is 9th in the nation in defensive rebounding per game. Alabama's 48th. Carolina gets 29, Alabama gets 27. So there's just a 2 rebound discrepancy there. But where the one area Alabama does have an edge on the Tar Heels is they're 31st in offensive rebounding, getting 12.7 per game, where Carolina is getting 11.9. So again, even in the one where Alabama leads, the Tar Heels are just right there. But going back to that Grand Canyon game, you saw what Alabama did to Grand Canyon on the offensive glass. Overall, Alabama out-rebounded Grand Canyon 50-40. 20 of those 50 were on the offensive glass. So Carolina must, like, the most important factor in this defensive rebounding or in this rebounding conversation is Carolina getting defensive rebounds, ending every defensive possession, with a rebound. Their offense is too potent for Carolina to not grab every defensive rebound they can. And I get it. There's going to be a bad bounce or two, and they're going to get some, but you got to do what you can to limit Alabama's offensive rebounding attack. Number 4 in our Four Corners preview is Carolina needs to continue their turnover streak. Carolina has had 4 straight games in single-digit turnovers, including just 5 on Saturday against Michigan State, which ties a season low for Carolina. Now, it's not just about the number, because it's all factored based on how many possessions you play. Same with the rebounding conversation we just had, right? You want to actually look at rebounding rate. Same is true here. What's Carolina's turnover rate? Well, right now it's 14.2%. That means Carolina turns it over on 14.2% of their possessions. That's 22nd nationally. And so in what we expect to be a high possession game, I still want to see Carolina wind up in single digits. I want to see them, same kind of thing as the conversation with rebounding we just had. For Carolina, holding on to the ball, valuing the ball, not turning it over, also serves to limit Alabama's offensive potential, because you're not giving it back to them while you're maintaining more of your own possessions. It's a great way to swing the balance of the number of possessions you have, is to not cough it up. So Carolina needs to do that well. And when the Tar Heels do cough it up, let's just make sure it's of the dead ball variety, not a live ball variety that leads to a run out and 2 or 3 points for Alabama. So that's what we're watching for. That's the 4th of the Four Corners preview. Now, as we've talked about before, I don't like the timing of it, but the transfer portal is already open. And if it's open, we need to start paying attention to it, because the coaching staff is having to do that. And one of the ones that I'm looking at is a young man that just might be the Tar Heels' Cormac Ryan replacement if they can land him. Who is it? We'll talk about that in just a second. Right after I tell you that this week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by our good friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest. Just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys are able to take it to the next level. Who is it this week? It's our very own Tar Heels, who can only be described as a Nissan Armada. This one seed is as hardcore as it gets out there, so it's no wonder they secured a spot in the Sweet 16 tomorrow night against Alabama in the NCAA tournament. They're a favorite, picked by many to make a championship run, and we're going to see if they can keep doing it. So, why don't you take the Nissan Armada or Rogue or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure? Shop nissanusa.com. This episode is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, from exhaust kits to LED headlights and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. They've got over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. And so you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. Also, with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Why? Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, that precious cash that you've earned. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive right now at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. Thankfully this year, the Tar Heels are still playing basketball late into March, unlike last year, where all we had was transfer portal and roster construction for next year to talk about. Thankfully this year, we're still getting to talk basketball as we've just done, but also we're looking ahead to the transfer portal a little bit, because that's the landscape right now, and that's what we've got to do. So Here's where I want to turn my attention is to a young man that entered the transfer portal on Monday of this week. And I believe, in fact, that he would be a just fine Cormac Ryan replacement for next season. The problem is, as anyone that you would think that might come to North Carolina, this young man has a lot of suitors coming after him. And his name is Cade Tyson, who has entered the transfer portal from Belmont. Now, if you recognize that last name, it's because his brother, Hunter, has been a rival of the Tar Heels at Clemson. So former Clemson player Hunter Tyson is Cade's brother. Hunter now a Denver Nugget. So, there's some of that good juju in the family, right? That's what we're talking about. The Tysons are from Monroe, North Carolina. That's like the southeast Charlotte suburbs. This year, he was a second-team All-Missouri Valley choice. Last year, he was the Missouri Valley Freshman of the Year. So great stuff there for Belmont. He is a 6'7" forward. He's got 2 years of eligibility remaining. Very good stuff there. This year, he averaged 16.2 points a game, 5.9 boards, and 1.6 assists. But this is what's truly nuts to me and why he really stands out above the crowd. 46.5% from three on 5.5 attempts a game. It's not like he's shooting 2 a game and doing that. This man's up there 5.5 attempts a game and just a little bit shy of 50%. In fact, so good that he is second best in the nation in like 3-point percentage for people that qualify. But he also does it elsewhere. 85.5% from the free throw line. And it's not like he's a slouch from 52.7% from there. So he's not just settling for threes or long range, like inefficient mid-range jumpers. He's getting to the rim and doing it there as well. In fact, shoots 61% at the rim and takes about a quarter of his shots from there. So, you look at Jack Golke from Oakland, whose name blew up this weekend because of knocking off Kentucky. You look at his shot chart, everything is outside the line except like 5 shots this year. There was like 1 at the free throw line. It's like, what happened there? Not so with, I almost called him Hunter, with Cade Tyson. This is a young man that gets to the rim as well, uses that requisite size and is able to do it. Watching his highlights, watching some of the Belmont games, I like that he is really able to excel in screening action. He shoots well on dribble handoff, is able to get through and get that space and put it up. He's a good cutter. He's able, his teammates are able to find him as he gets to the rim. But he's good on the opposite side of that too. He's a good passer, has a 10% assist rate. So that's great to see. Now, breaking down his 3-point game, like where is he shooting well from? Let's just go from like 3 of the spots. From the left wing, that's kind of the lowest, but he's 39%. 18% of his field goal attempts come from the left wing. How about left corner? Let's stay on that side of the floor. That's where 12% of his attempts come from, and he's shooting 49% there. Oh, but I got one more for you. The right wing, that's where my man Cade Tyson shines. 15% of his field goal attempts come from there, and he shoots it at a 54% conversion rate. Like he's making 54% of his threes from the right wing, and that's 15% of his field goal attempts. Come on. But he's from the Missouri Valley. Can he get out and shoot it? How about this? Cade Tyson hit 12 threes that were 25 feet or deeper this year. That's like 3 feet behind the college 3-point line. So yeah, he can get out and pour it in. Now, here's the deal. Because of these numbers, because of everything I've said, there are going to be no end of suitors for this young man. There, as you look on Twitter, you're going to see all these schools that have already reached out and think, man, I don't know. And part of that to me is because shooters, and not just shooters, but makers, that's critically important too. Lots of people love to shoot. It's harder to make them. But guys who are willing to put it up and guys who can make it, that's perhaps the single greatest currency in all of basketball. That's what the NBA wants. You saw that with Cam Johnson going as high as he did back in 2019, right? Because people recognize this dude can do it and he's got size. Let's get him. Now, one question to ask, will Clemson have a leg up just because of Hunter? Maybe so. But I think ultimately Cade will go wherever is best suited for him and where he feels most at home. total assumption there, right? We don't want, but I just don't want to also assume that it's a guarantee he'll go to Clemson. Now, somebody who's coming from Belmont, the question we always have to ask, will it translate? Because Belmont, as part of the Missouri Valley Conference, it's not like a top 6 or even 7 or 8 conference, but the Missouri Valley always has good teams. Drake, Indiana State have both been really good this year. Drake won the Missouri Valley tournament and got the automatic bid. Indiana State just barely missed as an at-large. So there is good basketball in the Missouri Valley Conference. So does it translate up to the ACC level? Because that's the fear always, right? You see some guys that come up like Dalton Connect coming out of the Big Sky Conference. Look what he's doing at Tennessee. Yeah, that translated. So in my opinion, watching what Cade Tyson does, I say yes. I believe from watching that his release is quick enough to get it off at the ACC level. I believe that he has the requisite positional size that I would want him to have. And I mean, the ball just looks so pretty coming out of his hand. His form is good, up and right back down. It's not all this movement backwards or forwards. He just splashes, and it's a beautiful sound going through the net, and it looks great. Season and career high, scored 31 points this year at Samford. Remember Samford that gave Kansas all that trouble in the first round? He went there, got 31, 9 rebounds on 6 of 13 shooting, 6 of 13 threes, 7 of 7 from the free throw line, 3 of 6 from 2. So all 3 levels, doing it everywhere, efficient, and he's doing it at the team that won the SoCon this year, right? So that's good. Season low, though, was 3 points against Arizona. An unfortunate time to not have a great shooting game, or is it because it's Arizona? That's something that Hubert Davis and others, if the Tar Heels choose to pursue him, are going to have to suss out. Is that like what he would do against Power 6 competition? Here's the problem. That's literally the only Power 6 competition, high major school, that Belmont played against this year. So it's just tough to know. But in that game, he was 1 of 7 from the field and 0 of 2 from 3. So that, I want to share the highlights, but I also want to be fair and let you know where he has not done as well. So that's something that teams are going to have to reckon with. And then the other question is always fit, right? It's not just about, look at what he can do. Let's clearly go get it. No, that's not always what you want to do. You want to make sure that he fits your culture, that he fits need, right? Like that's why Harrison and Cormac fit so well for the Tar Heels this year. Is he that fit? I believe that Cade Tyson would be a perfect replacement for Cormac Ryan as Carolina's starting 3, as the starting wing, small forward. I mentioned Cam Johnson. I think he kind of would have a Cam Johnson-y kind of role for the Tar Heels where he could just splash from 3, but get out in transition and get some dunks and layups and do other stuff, attack the rim. He's got good. Cormac's playing the 3 this year at 6'5". This dude would be 6'7". It's not quite Cam's height, but it's up there. I'll tell you that. So good positional size for me. You pair that, let's say, hopefully, I would love it if Harrison Ingram comes back, Cade Tyson at the 3, Harrison at the 4. Whew, yeah, I'll take that every day. And by the way, you don't have Elliot Cadeau setting you up at Belmont. You do in Chapel Hill. So I'm just saying, I think he would be a phenomenal fit for the Tar Heels next season. All right, coming up on tomorrow's show, we'll get final preparation for Sweet 16. The plan is myself, Coach Pat Kilby, Coach Rob will all 3 be on the program together, so buckle up for that. It should be epic. Now, if you haven't joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community, come do that. Come for the Tar Heels, stay for the community. The link's in the show notes, free to join. If you haven't subscribed on audio podcast platforms, please do that. If you haven't subscribed on YouTube, please do that. For those of you watching, just hit it right now. Hit subscribe. Also, hit the bell notification so you get notified when I go live, which we will do after the game tomorrow night. Even though it's late, we're in this together. So come hang out. If you haven't hit this like button, go ahead and smash that so we know you are here. You know the drill. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow to set up the game, and we'll talk again tomorrow live after the game. But until then, peace.